The wooden spoon trembled in Tommy's hands for just a moment, but when he looked up at Gordon Ramsay with eyes that held nothing but pure joy and said, "Cooking is love, chef. That's all I know." The entire MasterChef kitchen fell silent in a way that transcended competition, transcended television, transcended everything except the recognition of something beautiful and true. Gordon, who had built a career on intensity and high standards, felt his own eyes fill with tears as he looked at this 22-year-old chef with Down syndrome who had just reminded everyone in that studio what cooking was really about. And in that moment, 15 cameras captured something that would change not just a cooking show, but everyone who witnessed it, proof that the purest talent comes from the purest heart. The cameras kept rolling, but this was no longer about culinary competition. This was about a young man who approached food with such genuine love and unfiltered passion that he transformed everyone around him, including a world-famous chef who thought he'd seen everything the culinary world had to offer. It started as a standard elimination challenge during the middle rounds of MasterChef. 10 contestants remained, each fighting for their place in the next phase of competition. The kitchen gleamed under studio lights, every surface polished to television perfection. Gordon Ramsay commanded the space with his signature presence, his white chef's coat immaculate, his energy focused on identifying the strongest cooks. Today's challenge, Gordon announced, his voice carrying across the silent kitchen, is about comfort food. I want you to create a dish that represents home, family, and the kind of food that feeds the soul as much as the body. 10 contestants nodded, each mentally cataloging family recipes and emotional connections to food. Among them stood Tommy Rodriguez, 22 years old, wearing his chef's whites with obvious pride, his face radiating the kind of genuine excitement that was rare in a competition setting. Tommy had Down syndrome, but what struck everyone who met him wasn't his intellectual disability. It was his absolute, uncompromising love for cooking. He'd been working in restaurant kitchens since he was 18, starting as a prep cook and working his way up through determination, natural instinct, and a work ethic that impressed every chef who employed him. What the cameras had captured during his audition, what the producers had recognized during casting, was that Tommy possessed something that couldn't be taught, an intuitive understanding of flavor, a natural gift for combining ingredients, and most importantly, an approach to food that came from pure joy rather than technical ambition. You have 90 minutes, Gordon continued, to create a dish that tells your story. Your time starts now. 9 contestants immediately sprinted toward the pantry, their minds racing through complex preparations and sophisticated techniques. Tommy walked more slowly but with purpose, his eyes scanning the ingredients not with the calculating intensity of his fellow competitors, but with the wonder of someone who saw possibilities everywhere he looked. He selected simple ingredients: ground beef, potatoes, onions, cheese, basic vegetables, the components of what appeared to be a humble shepherd's pie. But as Tommy gathered his ingredients, something in his expression suggested he saw something more sophisticated in these humble elements. "What are you thinking, Tommy?" Gordon asked as he made his rounds, genuinely curious about the youngest contestant's strategy. Tommy looked up at Gordon with eyes that sparkled with enthusiasm. "My abuela's recipe, chef," he said, his voice carrying the soft accent of his Hispanic heritage. "She taught me that food doesn't need to be fancy to be beautiful, just needs to be made with love." Gordon nodded, but privately wondered if Tommy fully understood the level of competition he was facing. The other contestants were preparing complex dishes with multiple components, advanced techniques, restaurant-level presentations. A simple shepherd's pie might not be enough to survive elimination. As Tommy began cooking, something remarkable became apparent. While his technique wasn't as refined as some of his classically trained competitors, his instincts were extraordinary. He tasted constantly, not just checking for seasoning, but seeming to communicate with the food, understanding how flavors developed and changed throughout the cooking process. "Behind you, hot!" called Marcus as he rushed past with a searing pan. "Thank you, friend," Tommy responded cheerfully, stepping aside with a smile that seemed to brighten the entire kitchen. While other contestants were focused intensely on their own dishes, Tommy maintained an awareness of everyone around him, offering encouragement and genuine excitement about his fellow cooks' preparations. 30 minutes into the challenge, Tommy was building his shepherd's pie with methodical care. But what caught Gordon's attention wasn't just Tommy's technique, it was his demeanor. While stress levels rose around the kitchen, while other contestants showed signs of pressure and frustration, Tommy worked with consistent joy. He seasoned his meat mixture, tasting and adjusting with an intuitive understanding that impressed Gordon. He prepared his potato topping not just for texture, but clearly thinking about how it would complement the filling underneath. Every movement seemed deliberate yet relaxed, as if he was cooking in his grandmother's kitchen rather than competing on national television. 45 minutes remaining, Gordon announced. Tommy was assembling his dish now, and Gordon drifted closer to watch. What he saw challenged his expectations completely. Tommy's shepherd's pie wasn't just comfort food. It was being constructed with real understanding of balance, texture, and flavor development. The meat filling showed proper browning and seasoning. The vegetables were cooked to the right texture. The potato topping was seasoned and piped with care that suggested both pride in presentation and understanding of how it would affect the final dish. But more than technique, there was something else in Tommy's cooking that Gordon couldn't quite define, a quality that went beyond skill and entered the realm of pure love for the process. "Tommy," Gordon said, watching him work, "tell me about your grandmother's recipe." Tommy's face lit up as he continued piping his potato topping. "Abuela came from Mexico when she was 16, chef. She didn't know how to cook American food, so she learned by watching neighbors and asking questions. She said that every dish she made was her way of saying, 'I love you,' to our family." Tommy paused in his work for a moment, his expression growing thoughtful. "She taught me that cooking isn't about being the smartest or the fastest. It's about putting your heart into the food so that people feel loved when they eat it." Gordon listened to these words, spoken with such genuine conviction, and felt something shift in his understanding of what he was witnessing. 20 minutes remaining. As the challenge entered its final phase, the kitchen energy became frantic. Several contestants were struggling with timing. Others were dealing with dishes that weren't developing as planned. The usual pressure cooker atmosphere of a MasterChef elimination was building to its crescendo. Tommy remained calm, making final adjustments to his dish with the same steady joy he'd shown throughout the challenge. He tasted his filling one more time, nodded with satisfaction, and slid his shepherd's pie into the oven for its final browning. 5 minutes! Start thinking about plating. Tommy removed his dish from the oven and began his final plating. It wasn't the most sophisticated presentation in the kitchen, no molecular gastronomy, no avant-garde composition, but it was beautiful in its simplicity. A perfectly bronzed shepherd's pie with a side of seasoned vegetables, plated with care and obvious pride. As Tommy put the finishing touches on his plate, he did something that no other contestant had done. He paused, looked down at his creation, and whispered, "Thank you, Abuela." "Time! Hands up, step back." Tommy stepped back from his dish with a smile that seemed to encompass pure satisfaction, not the relief of surviving a challenge, not the strategic thinking of advancing in competition, but the simple joy of someone who had just created something he was proud of. The judging began, and Gordon approached Tommy's station with the other judges. The dish looked humble compared to some of the more elaborate presentations, but there was something appealing about its honest simplicity. Gordon cut into the shepherd's pie, revealing layers that had been carefully constructed. The potato topping was perfectly cooked, crispy on top, creamy underneath. The filling showed good color and proper texture. It looked like comfort food at its finest. Gordon took his first bite, and his expression changed immediately. The flavors were extraordinary. The meat was seasoned perfectly, with depth that spoke to proper browning and careful spice balance. The vegetables maintained their texture while contributing to a harmonious blend. The potato topping added richness without overwhelming the filling. But there was something else in the dish, something that transcended technique and entered the realm of emotion. This food tasted like love, like family gatherings, like the kind of cooking that nourished souls as well as bodies. Gordon took another bite, then another, his expression growing more thoughtful with each taste. "Tommy," Gordon said finally, his voice softer than usual, "this is exceptional." Tommy's face brightened with pride, but also with genuine surprise. "Really, chef?" "Really," Gordon confirmed. "The seasoning is spot on, the technique is solid, and the flavors are beautifully balanced. But more than that," Gordon paused, searching for words to describe what he was experiencing. "This dish has something that can't be taught," Gordon continued. "It has heart. It has soul. It tastes like it was made by someone who truly understands what food is supposed to do. Not just feed people, but bring them joy." Gordon looked around at the other contestants, then back at Tommy. "Tommy, in 30 years of professional cooking, I've tasted thousands of dishes. Some were technically perfect, some were creatively brilliant, some were visually stunning. But this," Gordon gestured toward the plate, "this tastes like pure love." That's when Tommy spoke the words that would stop the competition and change everything. "Cooking is love, chef. That's all I know." The simple truth of that statement, delivered with such genuine conviction, hit Gordon like a physical force. Here was a young man with Down syndrome who had just reminded a legendary chef about the most fundamental truth of cooking, that technique without heart is just mechanics, but food made with love becomes something transcendent. Behind the scenes, Gordon made a decision that was unprecedented in MasterChef history. Gordon stepped away from the judges' table and walked directly to Tommy. Without saying a word, he pulled the young man into a hug, not a quick, camera-friendly embrace, but a real hug, the kind that says, "Thank you for reminding me why I fell in love with cooking in the first place." When Gordon stepped back, his eyes were filled with tears. "Tommy," Gordon said, his voice thick with emotion, "you've just taught me something that I'd forgotten." Gordon turned to address the entire kitchen, including the cameras. "Ladies and gentlemen, what we've just witnessed is a masterclass in what cooking is really about. Tommy has shown us that the most important ingredient in any dish isn't technique or creativity or presentation, it's love." Gordon looked back at Tommy, who was listening with the kind of attention that showed how much these words meant to him. "Tommy, you're not just safe from elimination," Gordon announced. "You've earned something that matters more than advancing in this competition. You've earned my respect and admiration as a chef." The kitchen erupted in applause, but it wasn't the typical competitive clapping of reality television. Every contestant was genuinely moved by what they'd witnessed. Several were wiping away tears, but Gordon wasn't finished. "More than that," Gordon continued, "Tommy, I want to offer you something. When this competition ends, I want you to come work in one of my restaurants, not in a limited capacity, not as a gesture, as a chef, because you understand food in a way that many professional cooks never achieve." Tommy's composed expression finally cracked. Tears began sliding down his cheeks as he processed what Gordon had just offered. "Thank you, chef," Tommy managed to say. "That would make Abuela so proud." What happened next was unlike anything in MasterChef history. The other contestants abandoned their own concerns about elimination and surrounded Tommy, not with pity or condescension, but with genuine respect and affection for someone who had reminded them all why they loved cooking in the first place. "Dude, that was beautiful," said Jennifer, wiping her own tears. "I've been so focused on technique and competition that I forgot about the joy part." "Your grandmother would be proud," added Marcus. "That dish tasted like every happy memory I have of family dinners." Gordon watched the group surrounding Tommy and realized something profound about the nature of cooking and competition. "What we've learned today," Gordon announced to the entire kitchen, "is that great cooking isn't just about skill or creativity or even talent. It's about understanding that food is how we show love to each other." Gordon approached Tommy one more time. Tommy, I want to ask you something. What do you think makes a great chef? Tommy considered the question seriously, his face showing the thoughtful expression that appeared whenever he was asked to articulate his cooking philosophy. I think a great chef makes people happy, chef, Tommy said simply. When someone eats your food and it makes them smile, or reminds them of someone they love, or just makes them feel good inside, that's when you know you cooked something special. Tommy paused, gathering his thoughts. My abuela used to say that cooking is like giving hugs, but with food. When you cook with love, people can taste it. And when people taste love, it makes them want to share love with other people too. The kitchen was completely silent as everyone processed these words. So I think a great chef is someone who uses food to make the world a little more loving, Tommy concluded. Gordon stood quietly for a long moment, and when he finally spoke, his voice carried a weight that surprised everyone, including himself. Tommy, Gordon said, in 30 years of professional cooking, I've never heard a better definition of what we're supposed to be doing. The episode, when it aired, became more than television. Culinary schools began incorporating discussions about cooking philosophy alongside technical training. Restaurants started emphasizing the emotional aspects of food service alongside efficiency and presentation. The James Beard Foundation invited Tommy to speak about cooking with joy at their annual conference. But perhaps most importantly, the episode changed how people thought about intellectual disability and capability, about different kinds of intelligence, and about the value of approaching familiar tasks with pure heart rather than calculated strategy. Tommy didn't win the entire MasterChef competition, but he won something more valuable, the recognition that excellence comes in many forms, and that sometimes the most important lessons come from those who approach the world with open hearts rather than protective strategies. Today, Tommy works as a chef at one of Gordon's restaurants, where his natural gift for seasoning and his infectious joy have made him beloved by both colleagues and customers. His cookbook, Cooking with Love, Simple Recipes for Happy Hearts, became a bestseller and is now used in culinary therapy programs worldwide. Above his station hangs a photo from that MasterChef episode, Tommy with his simple shepherd's pie, Gordon with tears in his eyes, and the other contestants surrounding them both with genuine admiration. Below the photo, a simple plaque with his grandmother's words in both Spanish and English. Cocinar es dar abrazos con comida. Cooking is giving hugs with food. Because that's what Tommy Rodriguez taught everyone that day, that the most sophisticated cooking technique is love, the most advanced culinary skill is joy, and that sometimes the greatest chefs are those who never forget that food is how we take care of each other,